Whitecap is proudly supported by Sail Canada's BMO MasterCard. For every purchase made using the card, you win with no fees and cashback or air miles, and Canada's high-performance sailing programs get supported. This credit card is the card for Canadian sailors. Scan here to get yours today. Hey, welcome to the first edition of Whitecap Regatta Reports. Today we're talking men's kitefoiling at the U.S. Open in Clearwater. I'm super stoked to have Mac Morrin, who just qualified Canada for a position in men's kitefoiling for the Pan Am Games in Santiago, Chile. Mac, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Okay, so tell me about how the regatta went down. As far as from where I was looking at the results all the way through, it was pretty close finish, right? So take me through that and who you had to beat and how it went down at the end.
Yeah, so this event in Clearwater was, I guess, the first qualifier that I've been able to go to for the Pan Am Games. And at Clearwater, there were 3 spots available. So the top 3 Pan American countries were going to get a spot. So this event had been like a big goal that I've been working towards. So there was some stress going in. First day of racing was pretty tight, and each day kind of continued on, and I had some really close battles, particularly with the Colombian rider Victor. Going into the last day, I think I was behind by about 1 point. And it wasn't, at one point it didn't look like we were going to get any racing, so there were some emotions there. And then
shit, that's the worst.
And then all of a sudden, 10, 12 knots came in from out in the middle of the ocean, and we just weren't expecting it. It was a totally opposite direction. It was like a thermal that we weren't expecting. And we got 4 races, and I was able to pull it off.
That's amazing. Was it because it was the last day, right? So was it a thing that they had in the notice of race where they're like, there's no races after 2:00 or something like that?
I think there was definitely some questions about that. I don't think it was actually written that there was a cutoff time, but there was a schedule. And they said that, they're just trying to get as many as they can because the regatta itself had been a little bit down on races due to weather.
Right.
And I knew there'd be award ceremony and stuff, so the race committee would have some pressure to get it done early. But it's also the Pan Am qualifier, so they were balancing that. So right. I was just lucky we got some races.
Absolutely. But I know they really should have had something saying, because usually in a situation like that, everyone's sitting there on the beach going, "Oh, it's 2, it's almost 1:30. Are they going to get another race in?" And people start trying to influence the race committee by packing up and everything, and it's just so.
I know.
So that's great that happened. So can you take me through quickly, or not so quickly, the rather complicated process of qualifying for the Pan Am Games? I've been told to say you qualified to be nominated for the games. So,
yeah, as far as I was aware, with reviewing the selection documents and stuff, this event was the selector for the individual, but also the country qualifier. So, and there's a few events that you can qualify the country. So it wasn't a for sure thing that we were going to qualify at this event in particular. I had a backup plan. I'm glad I don't have to go to that particular event and can get some rest at home.
Where was that? The other event?
The next event is in the Dominican Republic in Cabarete,
okay.
And there's 2 remaining spots left.
I see.
And that venue would be very windy, very wavy, something I don't get that often here in Kingston. be really wavy. So
Right.
I was a little more comfortable having sailed in Clearwater a few times now.
Right. Right. Did you know the guy, the Colombian? Was it Colombian you had to beat at the end? Did you know him?
I haven't met him personally prior to this event.
It
Yeah,
wasn't like a big adversary, like you wanted to cut his lines in the middle of the night kind of thing.
No, no, but he's pretty quick and definite. I think that he'll qualify at the next event in the Dominican, so it's not the last that I'll have seen of him, and I'm sure I'll see him at the Pan Am Games.
Right, right. So it's like I said, it's the first time kite foiling is in the Pan Ams and the Olympics in 2024. And I understand it's, you guys, we've only started training in the event a little while ago, but you had four guys, right, four men in the
Yeah.
competition, which by itself is a pretty big accomplishment, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty great to see more Canadian participation. We had four men competitors and four female actually as well, which is great to see. Myself and Michael Brodeur and a few others, we kind of like started a regatta here in Canada like 7 years ago, and it started off pretty small and with no female or youth competitors, and it has expanded year after year after year. So and now people are racing internationally as well, which is really cool.
That's great. Is that the Fork Regatta?
Yeah,
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that you were involved or that the racers were involved putting that together. That's
yeah,
very nice
yeah, with
initiative.
KYC.
Okay. So I've never seen a kite foiling regatta in person. I've seen lots of footage of you guys ripping around. But so there's things that I often wonder, like, what do you do when it's light? Like, not just how much wind does it take before you can actually sail, but also what if you're out there and it gets light in the middle of the day? What happens?
Yeah, so unlike the other boats where you can kind of just sit and chill, especially when it gets light wind, there's no, like, you cannot stop foiling. You have to keep moving. I think the class minimum is like 6 knots, but we are now able to ride in like a solid 4 knots.
Oh, wow.
And, but there's no stopping. Like once you get up on your board, you got to keep going. And if you have trouble getting through a tack or a jibe, that's when the pumping comes in. So I'm sure you've seen like pump foiling. Well, we combine like the kite and the board, and
Okay.
it's a big part of getting through maneuvers fast. And it's also like a strategical tool that you can use on the start line too. If you
Okay.
can pump really high, you can get another lane up,
Hmm.
and that's like new stuff that's starting to be seen on the race
I was
course.
gonna say, is it legal throughout the race, like in
Yeah,
470s?
yeah, it is legal. People, I think, just weren't that good at it for a while, and now people are getting really good at it. So
Oh
if you
man.
understand your windward ley line to the mark, you can like try and pump really hard and get around. It's not easy, but it can be done.
I'm laughing because the fitness level must go up like 10 or 20% if you're going to have to pump all around the race course.
Yeah, so working with the trainer at the sports center, she was like wondering if like heavy wind is more physically demanding and that kind of thing. And I was like, the super light wind is the most physically demanding, like because you're pumping so much. It's like cardio, your heart rate goes through the roof. So it's kind of funny. Whereas like other sport or other classes, if it's like really windy, you might be working harder.
Right. Oh, yeah. But is it similar to windsurfing in that way? Well, I've never seen the foiling windsurfers, but I know that off the start they're pumping like crazy, right? Is it like
Yeah,
that?
we kind of have like a time and distance, like a keelboat start, right? So we're
Right.
like slowly approaching, slowly foiling, and then you drop your kite and pump up to speed, and then you really lock in. So we don't have as big of pumping as the windsurfers, I think, but
Right.
still part of it.
Do in between races though, you can chill and sit on your coach's boat, or
Yeah, actually, so day three, I was like chilling, and it was a sketchy offshore day where the wind's coming from like apartment buildings and stuff like that, and it's really swirly. And if you get maybe it's not lazy, but if you lose focus, something can go wrong with your kite. And so my kite fell out of the sky and was in the water for like 15 minutes and I missed a race.
Oh,
So
shit.
there's definitely there's part of it where you might want to sit on the coach boat and rest and get some water and some food. But on a sketchy wind day, you might want to just like keep moving and keep your hand on the bar so that something bad doesn't happen. Because multiple other people had the same thing happen and missed races because of that. So it's like you got to recognize when and where you want to be on the coach boat.
Jeez, what a different thing, right? Compared.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Nobody in any other. I know the 49ers have to like wing up, so it's not super comfy compared to like Razors and 470s. But the idea that you guys gotta like. So the idea is you're sitting on the coach boat and but your wing is or your sail
Kite's
is still
in the air.
Your kite is still in the air. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and there's definitely some skill that comes into the boat driver. So, an experienced kite coach will, maneuver the boat a little bit better than someone who hasn't done it before. And if the boat slides under the kite, then the kite might fall out of the sky. So you kind of got to keep a little bit of pressure going.
Right. Do the lines
Yeah.
ever get tangled? Do you guys ever tangle lines?
Oh yeah, yeah. That does happen. In training, before the event, there was a scenario where myself and one of the British girls got in a very brief tangle, and most of the time it resolves pretty quickly, but sometimes it's like it cannot be resolved on the water, and you have to like wrap up your kites together and like there's definitely some dynamics in the water when you're attached and you're beside each other and you just ruined the other person's race.
Right, that's race is over then, right? If that happens.
Yeah, and you hope that the safety boat or the coach gets you back to shore quickly so you can untangle and make the next race.
You have to go all the way. Wow. That's
Yeah.
So
So
that
you definitely want to avoid tangles. Like even if you know you're in the right rules-wise, like you still need to avoid also by the rules, but
yeah.
it's strategic to not put yourself in positions where tangles are highly possible.
Right. Wow. So it's kind of like when you're walking your dog and two dogs get, tangled like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
or you just cross the street so you don't tangle with the other dogs.
Exactly. Dog owners, take that advice from our Pan Am Games bound, possibly, Mac Morrin. The time on distance thing, I've seen some crazy footage of guys doing and women doing like port tack starts. So it does seem like an easier thing, maybe than a traditional boat. Is that true, or is that just as crazy?
There's actually even some. I think the kite classes put out a skit almost recently of like people being asked this exact question about the port tack start. I think it's still crazy because the closing speeds. Because you want to have a good port tack. You're not going to just like go slow and duck the fleet. Usually you're going to cross the fleet at 25 knots, and they're also doing 25 knots. So you need to be really confident. If it saves you a tack and you get to the right side, the correct side of the course or the favorable side, then it can pay off. I think it comes into the medal style racing. It's very useful. To save attack, but in the qualifying series and the races leading up to medal series, it's pretty risky because there's so many boats.
Yeah, I'm learning a ton. So there'd be more just to save attack. You might do a port tack start, even
Correct.
like to duck the fleet, not necessarily cross everybody.
Yeah, correct.
Right. Which is, you almost never see in a like in a laser or whatever.
We've been looking at data because we track everything with GPS. We can like see how many meters you lose in attack. So, say you lose, 20 seconds, like between full speed and full speed, you might lose like 40 meters or 20 meters. So if you lose that many twice, that's enough to, lose the race. So having one less tack might be helpful.
Um, so, unlike a lot of the top kite foilers in the world, you have a full-time job that you have to balance with your racing. Can you tell me about that kind of balance and what you do?
Yeah, I work as a registered nurse. The place that I work is pretty high stress and pretty demanding. So the kiteboarding is a really nice way to take the stress off. Fortunately, I have a very understanding employer that allows me to trade shifts and that kind of thing. So
Uh-huh.
I still work full time. Want to be clear about that, but it
Wow.
seems like I'm away a lot, but it's because so say I was just away for 2 weeks. I used a tiny bit of vacation, but I'm going back to work tomorrow, and I'm gonna work like 6 days in a row, 12-hour shifts to like catch up a bit.
Right.
So they're really accommodating to do that, especially in like the nursing field right now. Like we're so short-staffed that
Right. Right.
I'm very lucky. Yeah. So
Well,
I work full time and balance it with the kiting. I think as hopefully as I get better and as maybe some funding becomes available, I'll be able to dial back the hours a little bit. I think that they'd be accommodating with that as well.
right.
But it's kind of I want to get some results before I go down that path.
Well, what you need to do is make sure your employers watch Whitecap regatta reports to
Yeah.
see what a big deal you are, and then then you can say, look, you just got to give me a little more time. Um,
Yeah.
and like you were nursing during like the height of COVID, right?
Yeah, that was, luckily we didn't get a ton of direct COVID interaction, but it was very busy. And then on top of that, the complications of not being able to travel. I also had some like personal guilt with being like, oh, well, I'm working in this nursing field, but I also want to go travel the world.
Right.
So I actually took like quite a few months away from, like I didn't go anywhere for about a year for competitions. And to be fair, a lot of competitions were canceled because of COVID. So yeah, I kind of focused on work and training here in Kingston. And I think that that was necessary during that time.
Right.
And as COVID kind of tapered down a little bit, I felt more comfortable going away for competition, and I just add a few extra days on there to be safe before coming back and like potentially exposing some of my patients.
Right. Well, you're
Mhm.
lucky to be in Kingston because that's a great venue for sure for
Yeah.
training. So what is next for Mac Morrin?
Next up, regatta-wise, I'm going to Palma, so that's the first week of April, end of March. I guess prior to that, I'm gonna try and do a snow kiting race in Ottawa.
Oh, that's so cool.
Um, more for fun, and it's a different beast. Like there's some guys that are quite talented at that. So I don't expect the results to be good, but it'll be kind of fun to go race against the guys in Ottawa. And yeah, fitness testing and training leading up to Palma, and then fundraising.
And we could get into that for another hour if we had to.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the venue like in Santiago? What do you know about it?
Honestly, not much. If I find some training partners who want to go check it out, maybe that would be a priority. The Pan Ams is definitely, I would say, the target place to try and qualify for the Olympics, being like realistic with skill level and how I've mapped it out. So it might be worth trying to go there early and
Right.
see what
That's
it's
what I
like.
was going to ask next was about the Olympics. So just, I guess, really quickly, is it the same thing? Like there's 4 spots or 2 spots or whatever for Pan Ams?
So there will be two spots, so one North American, one South American spot up for grabs, the continental spots up for grabs at the Pan Ams. Prior to that, there's a few spots at the World Championships in August, and then there's one last chance in France in 2024 before the Olympics, so pretty late.
Awesome. Well, listen, best of luck with the Olympic campaign for sure. Where could people give you money if you to fundraise?
I'm doing some fundraising through Wind Athletes Canada, so I have a page there. It allows people, if they would like to get a tax receipt, they can do that kind of thing. It's also worth mentioning, like, it's not always about money. Like, if there's in-kind support, there's always a need for a coach vote here or a little bit of help there. So, all ears.
Excellent. All right. Well, Mac Morrin, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it very, very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.